Welcome all of our visitors and friends to New Tabernacle Baptist Church, where Reverend Roosevelt Wright Jr. is our pastor. Come on, family, shake somebody's hand.
Shake somebody's hand, move around and meet a new friend. Isn't it great to be in the house of the Lord again? Shake somebody's hand, move around and meet a new friend. Isn't it great to be in the house of the Lord again? Welcome to New Tabernacle, welcome to New Tabernacle. 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 Faith, family, fellowship, we are. We're about faith, family, fellowship, we are. We're about faith, family, fellowship, we are. We're about faith, family, fellowship, we are. Your new season begins today. Your new season begins today. Tell somebody else your new season begins today. Your new season begins today.
Welcome all of our visitors and friends to New Tabernacle Baptist Church, where Reverend Roosevelt Wright Jr. is our pastor. Come on, family, shake somebody's hand.
Shake somebody's hand, move around and meet a new friend. Isn't it great to be in the house of the Lord again? Shake somebody's hand, move around and meet a new friend. Isn't it great to be in the house of the Lord again? Welcome to New Tabernacle, welcome to New Tabernacle. 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 Faith, family, fellowship, we are. We're about faith, family, fellowship, we are. We're about faith, family, fellowship, we are. We're about faith, family, fellowship, we are. Your new season begins today. Your new season begins today. Tell somebody else your new season begins today. Your new season begins today.
And good morning to everyone. Glad to see you today as we celebrate the Juneteenth weekend. The first time we've had a holiday weekend for Juneteenth officially as a federal holiday. So glad to see everybody as we also celebrate Father's Day today. Former Deacon Joe James told us that it's the national holiday, it's the best day of the year, Father's Day. And certainly we're sending shout outs this morning. As we send shout outs, we're asking you that if you have someone in your family that you would like to send shout outs to, as to give praise to God for all that he has done, be sure to type their names in as we do our shout out roll call this morning. We're sending shout outs this morning to Sister Jacqueline Johnson. Jackie has been down for a little while, and she's kind of homebound, been self-quarantined for about a year and a half. So we're asking the continued prayers for Jackie. She keeps up with everything on Facebook, and certainly she'd like to hear from you if you give her a call. But we're sending a shout-out this morning for Sister Jackie Johnson. A shout-out this morning for Brother Ibra January. We're asking that God would bless him immensely, for he continues to serve in ministry here and giving advice and giving leadership in our church, and we certainly are proud of him, and we're asking God to continue blessing him with long life, health, and strength. Brother January. And we're sending shout out this morning for Sister Patricia Johnson and asking that you would bless Pat Johnson. You can continue to bless her, because she's always looking out for Old Tab, and every time she gets a chance to do anything to help the church, she's always trying to do just that. A shout out this morning for Bobby Kyles and Bobby Kyles Jr. and the entire Kyles family. We're asking that God would bless the entire Kyles clan as they get together and celebrate. We're certainly proud that God has blessed them. They've had the great chance to have great fathers in their household. Remember Pawpaw Little and Bobby Two and Bobby Kyles and all of them, great fathers in their home. A great day to celebrate. A shout out this morning for the Kyles family today. A shout out today for Sister Mary Jones, and we're asking that God would bless her, that she's always in tune with us online, even though she's over in Georgia. We're asking that God would continue blessing her and Miss Emma Jones and all of those in the Jones household, asking that God would continue blessing them immensely. Sending a shout out this morning to Sister Crystal Wheeler and for her husband and child. And we're asking that you'd bless the entire Wheeler household, that they might grow stronger and stronger. We certainly miss the inspirational words from Crystal, and we're asking that God would give her long life, health, and strength, and that there will be joy, peace, and happiness in the Wheeler household. We're sending out shout-outs this morning to Sister Bernstein Wilson, and we're asking that God would bless Bernstein, that she would be able to continue doing those things, fixing those meals, and making everybody as happy as she can. A shout out this morning to Brother Julius Ralph Taylor. And what we miss is having a song from Julius Ralph Taylor. We're going to have to get together one time and give him the microphone so he can just bless us with that voice of his. Certainly all of his family are singers now. Osna says she can't sing, but I heard her sing one time too. So all them Taylors, they can sing. No, they can't just sing. They can sing. And so we want to make sure that we get, we would like to hear just a little word from Julius Ralph if we ever get a chance to hear him again. We want to send a shout out this morning to Sister Jeray Williams, and we're asking that God will continue to bless her and all of her children and all of the Williams household, and we're asking that God will continue lifting him up, and we're certainly proud of how they're turning out and how the children are turning out to do such great things. A shout out this morning for Brother Joe Cleveland, and we're asking that you would let the Lord would bless him immensely as he gets ready to move and go to another city. We're asking that God would bless him and immensely. We're sending a shout out this morning to Brother Anthony Simmons and his wife and family. We're asking that the Simmons family would just grow stronger and stronger. Donna and everybody in that family would grow strong and strong. A shout out this morning to Sister DeAndres Scott Wallace, and we're asking that God would just keep his hand wrapped around DeAndres, and her family is growing larger and larger. That's pretty good for a girl that told us when she was 12 years old she wasn't going to have any children. But she's doing pretty good now. And a certain blessing to Sister DeAndres Scott Wallace, her husband and family. A shout out this morning to Sister Takevia James, and we're asking that God would continue blessing Takevia, because she's steady working, still trying to raise her family, and still trying to lift the Lord up in praise and in prayer. A shout out this morning for Brother Mark Gaines. Even though he's in a nursing home, he's still growing strong and still thinks about Old Tab. If you've got somebody you'd like to send a shout out to, make sure you put their name in, that we might be able to give them praise and glory, for certainly God has been good to all of us. Please put their name in. Send a shout out for them, for this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We have two announcements today. We'd like to note that we did get a card from a young lady who just wanted us to let the church know that she was grateful. The card says, "Thank you so much for planning the senior celebration for myself and the other graduates. The gifts sent through Cash App were so appreciated. I am sure I will use the funds to help purchase something for college. Such a blessing, but I'm getting a little nervous as I prepare to leave home. I will try to make you all proud. Please continue to pray for me as I begin my journey into college life." That's from Madison Nicole Davis, and we are certainly wishing her well as she begins her wilderness journey from 18 to 25 years old. And for all of our graduates who are beginning what I call the wilderness journey, certainly we got to keep praying for her always. I have another announcement to make as well. During the month of July, as we get ready to move back into our in-person services in August, we're going to be asking every family in our congregation to come to the church, just your family, that we might pray for your family. Many of us have gone through this COVID. Some have had deaths in their family. Some have had infected themselves but survived. Some have had some difficulties, and we want to pray privately. The only people that be in the church is just you and your family during that time. It'll be about a 20-minute pause where we will take a roll of individuals who were sick, people who had to be hospitalized, those who were quarantined, and those who survived, and those who went on to glory. We want to be able to compile it all so that when we have our reentry, we can remember what God has done for us. Now, you will all get a notice about a week or so ahead of the time for you to come. But we need you. If you're at work, we're going to let you take off work to be here. It's important that you be present, that we ask God, give him praise and ask for his blessings for your family. For when we come back into our church on the third week in August, we will have been out of the church 17 months. And we want to pray that God will bless us, and we want to give him thanks and praise. But we're going to do it personally with families. So as your family is called and you hear the date, make sure that you make arrangements. We want you to bring your husband, your wife, your children, everybody in that family block. We're not going to call everybody's family name, but when we call your family block name, we may not call your name specifically, but you know your family. When you see your family called, that's the day you're supposed to be there. It'll only be one time you'll be asked to come. So we want to take out special time to offer praise for God for giving us, helping us to make it through. And we want to ask God's praise and thanks for all that he has done for the future that is going to come. We need your family to come. So watch for your name, watch for your family in the month of July as we prepare to re-enter. Now, why are we doing that? Because in the Old Testament, the children of Israel were in exile for 70 years. When they returned to Jerusalem, Nehemiah brought in a few, and they went and they looked around at the walls, and they looked around at how things were, and they gave God praise and thanks. So as we get ready to come back to Zion, and as we get ready to return to Jerusalem, we wanted to ask that God would give us praise, that we would give God praise and thanks for all that he has done. Please don't be too busy when you find out the day that your family is supposed to be here. Don't be too busy to come. And even those who are stragglers and outliers, they were saved too. Ask them to come, that we might pray for those who went on to glory, and to also offer prayer and strength for those who are still here. And we're still dealing with this issue, that we may still be protected from it. So watch out for the announcements that were sure to come. thank each one of you for your contributions to the church, for your tithes and for offerings. For about 15 months now, many of you have carried us along and have been making extra steps to try to help us to be able to continue our worship. We thank you for your tithes. We thank you for your offerings. But we need you to continue your giving. Remember, you can't beat God giving. All that he gives, you can't do better. Now, what we ask you to do is you can send your contributions in one of many ways. One, you can use your Cash App. And with Cash App, our address is New Tab Church. New Tab Church. That's on Cash App. And we'll get it, and they'll send you a receipt back. You can use on our church app, you can go where it says Giving, touch there. It will give you an option to be able to give by PayPal or to use your credit card. You'll get a receipt there. If you need somebody to come and pick it up, you can come by and one of our deacons will come by and pick it up from your house if that's what's necessary. Or you can mail it. There are many of you who mail yours in. Our P.O. Box is 9063, Monroe, Louisiana, 71211. We're so grateful that many of you have maintained your contributions to the church over the last 15 months. We're coming to the end of this pandemic. We're going to be able to get back together soon. But your financial support for the church is a testament to your belief, to your faith, and certainly God will give you a blessing. But remember, you can't beat God giving. The more you give, the more he gives to you.
Exceedingly, abundantly, above all you can ask or think, according to the power that worketh in you and me. God is able to do just what he said he would do. He's gonna fulfill every promise to you. So don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. Has anybody tried him on today? Do you know we serve an able God? Oh, he's able. Yeah. And we declare that God is able. God is able to do just what he said he would do. And he's gonna fulfill every promise he made. Oh, don't give up on God. Don't give up on God. 'Cause he won't give up on you. We declare that he's able. Yes, he is. able. Just stand on this word. He's able. Just stand on this word. He's able. He'll never fail you. He'll never leave you. Never forsake you. Never back out on you. He's able. I know he is. He's able. Yes, he is. You gotta believe it. You gotta believe it. Hey, you gotta believe it. You gotta believe it. Trust in him. He's that type of God. He'll never fail you. He's able, yeah. Don't give up on God. No matter how hard it gets, he's right there. Don't give up on God. The whole world may be on your shoulders, but he's right there. Don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. Hallelujah.
In Mark chapter 14, verse 36, there is a word. Mark 14, 36. It says these words, "And he said, Abba, Father, all things are possible unto thee. Take away this cup from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but thou wilt be done." We'd like to reason with you on this Father's Day from the thought, the definitive Father. The definitive Father. What is your definition of a real father? Well, the answer to that question is going to depend upon the respondent, because the definition changes from person to person. When we think of fatherhood in the modern setting, the images are not the same images that came up many years ago. Many make distinctions now when we talk about fathers in this generation, but there are some who are just baby daddies, and there are some who women call sperm donors. To many children, being a father only means being a man who pays child support, or the guy who don't never pay child support. Yet the real father is much more than just a title or a tongue-in-cheek baby daddy name on a check. A real father is one who practices love, who protects, and who provides for his children. And prerequisite to being a real father is being a male who can do the right thing when others around him are trying to do what is wrong, and is willing to shoulder the responsibilities that come with that title and care of a family. Those who have mastered this truth have also learned the secret to real fatherhood. As Christians, godly men have learned through the generations. We have learned through trial, and we have learned through error, that those who have the courage to love and to protect their wives, to nurture their children, and to stand for what is right, those are real fathers in the sight of God. Take that as an introductory thought and think about the text that I read to you, because this is a peculiar text, because in it the idea of God is perceived as in the New Testament as a father, and how we see him is protected or is projected in this particular text. If you note the text that I read, used two words, Abba and Father, and those two words were being used together. The latter is translated into English, while the former is not translated at all, but remains in its Greek form, because in the New Testament it was written in Greek, and they translated one to say Father, and they just left the other one in Greek. Abba is a Greek word which means father. In fact, it's closer to daddy than father. It's more personal because it has some personal implications to it. This is Jesus on the cross calling out to Father God, saying, Abba, Father. Yes, in one instance he said father, and then he got a little closer. He said Abba, which is kind of like saying daddy. I'm hanging here, on the cross. The Old Testament, which is written in Hebrew, has only one word for father. They don't have any other different differentiations. They use the word ab or ab, which means father. In the time when Jesus lived, they had what's called kind of a commercial language that everybody spoke from different parts, and called Aramaic. And Abba in Aramaic meant what we call today Papa. So you got Papa and Daddy, but all of those were kind of like personal terms, and they were more terms of respect. It was normally the word in biblical times. Today we be waiting for the child to say dad. Well, in biblical times, they were looking for him to say papa, papa, Abba, which was kind of a way of saying dad, and they expected him to say daddy before he said mama in the biblical times. Now, there's a difference between the way the Old Testament views father and the way the New Testament views father. The Old Testament idea of father differs because father, in the Old Testament, the father was the Lord and master of his home. He was what we would like, if you go by the Old Testament, father in the home was a dictator. He was a provider. He was a decision maker. And he set the rules. He enforced the rules. He was the boss man, in the household. So Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and the other patriarchs, they were there. They were kind of like the boss, what we would like call the boss hog in the family. Nobody questioned them whatsoever. So Joshua could reach up and say, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. They didn't have no choice. If he said so, that's the way it was going to be. Strange things about the way it was in the Old Testament, because in the Old Testament, the father could have as many wives as he wanted to have. Abraham, Jacob, they had several wives, and they had as many as they could afford. And the fathers were given the permission in the Old Testament. Remember, the Old Testament image of father is different from New Testament. In the Old Testament, fathers was given the permission to destroy his children if they sinned. And the father was given the permission in the Old Testament to pick who his daughter was going to marry and pick who his son was going to marry. They didn't have no choice in it. Daddy said, you're going to marry this one, and daddy said, you're going to marry that one. There wasn't no question about it. Whether you loved them or not, that was beside the point. Daddy said so. That's the way it was in the Old Testament. And this authority was, we saw it exercised with Abraham when he had to find a mate for his young Isaac, and we saw many times this exemplified when the sacrificial time came, because they expected the father to do something else. If one of his boys or one of his girls didn't act right, they was expecting the father to throw the first stone. Remember in the New Testament when they said that Jesus told us that he without sin cast the first stone? Well, who was supposed to cast the first stone was the father in the household. When he threw the first stone, everybody else was throw as well, because father was expected, if his children didn't act right, he was expected to take them out. Well, today we hear mama saying that I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. But in the Old Testament times, that was literal. Daddy would take you out. And if he decided to sacrifice one of his children, now remember, this is Old Testament. Now, don't say this is New Testament. In the Old Testament, if Daddy decided to sacrifice one of his children and said, Lord, bless my household, and I'm going to take one of my children and I'm going to sacrifice him to you, nobody would put him in jail. Nobody would think anything of it, because that's what fathers were expected to do. That's why Abraham could take Isaac, carry him up, and put him on the altar, sitting there about to offer him as a sacrifice, and he wasn't worried about anybody, punishing him for it, because it was expected or allowed that fathers could sacrifice their children. Good thing we don't live in the Old Testament today. The image of the father in the Old Testament was one of respect, but not necessarily love. It was respect, but not necessarily compassion. They learned to respect their daddy, but they may not love him because he was a tough old fella in the Old Testament. And so in the Old Testament, when they referred to Father, they referred to God as a protector, as one who provided for them and whatever. The New Testament gives us a different picture of Father, because Father is perceived completely and totally different in the New Testament. Now that's where we have to keep our eye open, because in the New Testament, the husband is expected to be the husband of one wife. In the Old Testament, daddy could be the husband of many wives. In the New Testament, and you can't have no wife in Monroe and have another one in Shreveport and have another one in California. That won't work. In the New Testament, he's supposed to be the husband of one wife. In the New Testament, he's expected to love his wife. In the Old Testament, he's expected to just provide for his wife. He did not necessarily have to love her, because in the Old Testament, they would just marry you because they said so, and the wife was just supposed to lay there and have children. And they didn't care whether or not you loved them or not. But in the New Testament, the father is expected to love his wife like Christ loved the church. In the New Testament, the father is not the head and master of his home. He is perceived to be an equal partner in the family, who assumes the leadership role by common agreement with his wife. But he's not the head and master, the boss dog, anymore. Instead of being a terror to his children, in the New Testament, he is expected to love and to not to provoke his children to wrath in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, he was empowered to kill his children, but that wasn't necessarily so. In the New Testament, he wasn't empowered to do that. In the New Testament, the father is expected to be personal. In the New Testament, he's expected to show compassion and love for his children. He's expected to be friendly, and he's expected to be an example of fatherhood in a relationship to his wife and children. In this context, Jesus began a litany of different teachings projecting God as our Father. So the image that Christ was setting up as our Father wasn't the image that was in the Old Testament of our Father. He was projecting Father as a person of love, a person of compassion, and a person of concern. And not only that, was also a protector and provider. So when Jesus used in this text the term Abba, he referred to a personal God, a God who was concerned about him, who was not a dictatorial God, but one who was concerned about his condition. He was talking on the cross when he said, Father, Abba. He was saying, Daddy, look at me. I'm here on the cross. Father is characterized as a person with compassion. Father, look at me. I'm in a terrible situation. Daddy, Papa, look at me. I'm in this situation. Paul, writing to the Romans, used the term Abba to remind believers that they had been adopted into the family of God by their faith. And because of that, we all have a personal relationship with God. Jesus redefined, therefore, the meaning of Father for the New Testament. And we recognize God as our Father, and we recognize our earthly fathers as men who reflect the Spirit of God, especially those who claim to be Christians. There ought to be a few things that we ought to consider from this as we celebrate this Father's Day, as we look at fathers. And that is that first we ought to look at the image of the black father. Because the black father today has been defined by every entity out there other than himself. He has been told that he is where he is now, and he has been told how far he has to go by people outside of himself. Even his image of fatherhood is shaped outside of his own experience. Once perceived as a provider and a protector of the home, of the family, now the father, in the context of the African American experience, has been reduced to a mere caricature. One of our great black philosophers, Mr. Earl Ofari Hutchinson, wrote a book entitled The Assassination of the Black Male Image. And he writes of the image of the black man in America has been shaped by what we see on television. been shaped by the movies and shaped by video clips that has given a distorted image of the black man and the black father. He says it's been pounded. He says it's been twisted. He says it's been slanted. And we see stereotypes now of black men that are out there, and sometimes we get a messed up, confused stereotype of the black man as maybe in the TV clips, maybe he's a brute, or maybe he's shiftless, maybe he's lazy, maybe he's a criminal. Even more than the national media, the music industry is mostly owned and controlled by people outside of our community, and they give us, these images of black manhood. The only image that America projects forcefully for the black man is he's either ignorant Sambo or he's either a hateful rage. He's going to be stepping fast, the balls, or he's going to be mean on this side. Shut up, shut up, shut up. We're going to give him two. They only give us two images, and somewhere in the middle, there's the vast majority of our fathers who are not, and not, wow. There's somewhere in the middle, there's the most of our fathers who are there in the middle. Sometimes they give us images of father as either step and fetch it, or he's going to have the sheer rage of maybe movies like Boys in the Hood or things of this nature. The black father's got to redefine himself in light of the Word of God, because all of our men ain't out there scratching their head, and all of them ain't walking around with Uzis trying to shoot people. The majority of our men are in the middle, not defined, and the closest we were getting to them was the Huxtables and things of this nature, who are generally people who are trying to go live right, people who are trying to run their households right. They had fun, they laughed, they talked, they raised their families, they loved, and they are representative of the vast majority of our fathers. But yet what we see so much is these two images, either the cowardly image or the thug image of fathers, and we're lost in the middle. Like every man charged with the responsibility to exercise dominion over the earth, we as fathers have to be obedient, faithful like Job, and serve just like Joshua and say, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. The second thought for us to consider is this. The godly fathers are men of integrity. I raised 3 young men, and I hope that I did it correctly, but I was always concerned about whether or not they would have integrity, be able to stand on their own, and be able to not have to kowtow to anybody else. And that sense of integrity has to be moved from father to son, to be able to stand on your own and not have to ask anybody for anything, to be able to stand on your own principles and that which you believe to be right. Sometimes, without a father present, mothers try it, but you need to really have the father present. And I always like to say to fathers that mama really, her job really runs from like 1 to 10 years old, but between 10 and 18 is papa's time. Between 10 and 18, that boy's got to have his father around. He needs to be there when he's growing, and what the old folks say, when he starts smelling himself. He needs to be there when he gets his first little hairs up under his arm. He needs to be there when he starts courting girls. He needs to be there when they sit there and tell him, son, you can go out there and go out there and get all these babies if you like, but you're going to be paying child support for the next 20 years. Daddy need to be there telling him those kinds of things. Mama can say it, but nobody can say it like Papa can say it, and he needs to be able to make it true. Some strange things that happen are, sometimes people just assume that black families don't have fathers, and there are a whole lot of them that do. And when my sons were in school, I'll always go to the school, and they have written on the board, for the parent, the mothers, they say, tell the mothers to come and bring this. And I had to remind them, so my son's got a father. And anytime anything happened, they didn't call the mama, they called me. I went to the school, I'd sit in the classroom, I'd follow them around on the school campus every single day. I'd chaperone them when they went to the movies, and chaperone them when they went to the football games, and even had the senior prom dance at my house. They ain't go nowhere unchaperoned. Papa's gonna be there. Gentlemen, you have to be able to tell your sons and your daughters how they go, and they need to be able to see your example. You can talk that talk, but they got to walk your walk. I can't tell you to be faithful to your wife if I'm cheating on mine. And so they're going to watch how daddy does his. If daddy tips around, cheats on his wife, and they figure that's what the man's supposed to do. Integrity is one of the things that men are supposed to teach their sons and their daughters. You know, if a girl doesn't have a strong father in a household, she doesn't know what to look for in a man. And what happens if all she does is see a man laying around on the couch every day? He's not married, he don't work, and nothing. And so she figures that's what a man's supposed to do. She needs to see a strong father in her household so that she can know what type of husband she should look for on her own. We have to be able to show that we need to provide for our families, but we need to do so without doing things that are illegal. We got to provide for your families without selling drugs, without bootlegging hot movies, without bootlegging compact discs and stolen merchandise. And we got to be able to do it without doing illegal things. There's no pride for a father to be able to go out and say, well, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. No, a man's got to do what he's got to do within the law and within those things which would be pleasing to God. Despite hard times, our history shows that we have lived through wars, that we have lived through slavery, we have lived through floods, we have lived through depressions, but for the most part, the men of our families have refused to steal or involve themselves in wrongdoing, despite what all the people say. We've come all this journey, but all black fathers don't steal. And all black fathers don't run out cheating on their wives, and all black fathers don't leave their homes. There are some who are doing hard, working very hard, and we need to praise those who are trying to do the right thing. Those who have led their families, loved their wives, and worked to support their children. We have to lift them up, because otherwise people will think that all of our fathers are either the thugs or the stepping fetchits. The three Hebrew boys were prime examples of integrity in action. They refused to stand or to fall for anything that was not acceptable to God and acceptable to the laws of God. And great fathers make choices that are strong and that their children will remember long after they are gone. And that's important, therefore, because that's the definition of what God is going to call the real man. The real man is the one, yes, who provides and protects, and he's also one who is also there, and he's a friend, an advisor, and a lover for his wife. Those are the men that we're celebrating today, those fathers, because every man who has a child is not a father. Oh yeah, we know a lot of them. They believe, and some guys, you know, that's a real insult for a guy to have a child by a lady, or 2 or 3 children by a lady, and then you tell the child, I'm sending you $50 a month, that ought to take care of them. I got to live. No, you don't have a life. As long as you got children out there, you don't have a life. Every dime you got takes care of your children. If you went out there and got 7 or 8 children, then for 20 years, you're going to be taking care of 7 or 8 children. You don't have a life until your children, and they may be cold. I might need to say it nice and sweet, but the bottom line is, son, if you go out and have children, then the rest of the next 20 years of your life is going to be taking care of those, and that $50 a month won't do it. You say, well, I don't want to get at her, because if I get at her, then she's just going to be laying up there with that other Negro that she's going with. That ain't your business. The fact is, you laying in air condition, your child ought to have air condition. You watching color TV, your child ought to have color TV. Wherever the child would have, if they're with you, you need to provide for it. If it means taking everything you got and giving it that way, and the government shouldn't have to take it from you. It ought to be something that you want to do on your own. Don't take it out on your children, because you and the mother don't get along too well anymore. You and the mother perhaps have fallen out, but you should still show love for your children. They should never know the difference. You ought to be there for them each and every bit of the way. These are attributes of integrity. The father is the one who gives that symbol of integrity in his home. Finally, brothers and sisters, a Christian father is defined by his ability to withstand the fiery flames of the world with his character intact. Trial by experience is the best judge. It's the best judge of our character, and it's the best judge of our integrity. Whenever gold or other precious metals are extracted, it has to be refined. That is, the process of refining ore or gold is they have to put it in the fire and heat it up such that it can be separated from the earth and the rocks and things that it's about. Today, men who come forward as real fathers are those who have been tried in the fire. Every man in your household is not a perfect man. He has not done everything exactly by the book, but he's tried to the best of his ability and has come through the fire. The test that he has gone through is the test of time. He has tried to the best of his ability to love his wife, to love his children. And even when he and the wife are estranged, he's still trying to do his best to take care of his children. These are the fathers who have weathered such storms, and they know what it means to be tried in the fire. When we come through, like pure gold that is refined, all of the raw elements seem to just float away and fall away, and all we have left is our integrity and closeness to God. We went into our situation crudely, but we arose refined as not just baby daddies, not just sperm donors, but we became men who God would be pleased with, wearing the title Father. The Holy Spirit separates us and polishes us as we prepare for this great journey. Anyone who has been through God's refinery has no trouble praising God. And today we ought not have any problem praising the godly men in our families. Today we should be able to look at them and say, thank you for striving to the best of your ability to be the kind of father that God would have you to be. No, I'm not perfect, wife. No, you're not perfect, husband, but you're trying so hard, and I want to give you praise and glory for at least trying the very best you can. Brothers and sisters, when you look at your husband, you look at the father in your household, you ought to think about your Father who is in heaven. And that's where you ought to be able to say, my Father doesn't reside in Monroe. My Father doesn't reside in New York or Kansas City. Oh, but that's when you ought to be able to say, he sits high and he looks low, and he's looking over me wherever I go. Oh, whether you say Abba or whether you say Father, we are assured that the God we serve loves us with an agape love. Some call him Abba, some call him Father, but it all means one thing, that we are his children and he will work things out for us. The definitive father is one who can stand tall, but even though he's standing tall, he can reach low. The definitive father is one who is defined not by the size of his pocketbook or how many zeros he can write on a check, but by the depth of his heart. The definitive father is one who is defined not by the physical strength of his body, but by the moral fiber of his soul. The finest definition of father is that when we need him, he is there, and nobody can do it for us like he can. And I don't know about you, but I think I can say, when I think about my spiritual father, that I can say that I have a Father who can take sadness and turn it into gladness. I'm glad to know that I have a Father who can take misery and turn it into delight. I'm so glad to know that I have a Father who can turn all of my failures into success. I'm so glad to know that I have a Father who can take my loneliness and turn it into happiness. I'm so glad to know that I have a Father who can take my poverty and turn it into riches, who can take my defeat and turn it into victories. No wonder the songwriter would write, I cannot take the lightning and flash it across the land. I can't take a piece of clay and mold it into a man, but I have a Father who can. I'm reminded in closing of a little girl who had a nightmare, and when she was young, she'd always be afraid of the night. And in the middle of the night, she would get in her bed and she'd call out, Papa, Papa, please come and hold my hand. And no matter how many times at night she would call for him, Papa would get up and go and stand by the bed, sometimes crawl in beside her and hold her hand. When the lightning would flash, she said, Papa, Papa, hold my hand. And he would get up and come and stand by her side. The picture of her Papa sitting by her bed, holding her hand, never left her mind. Even after he died, many years later, she came to God and she got a chance to see God. as the man who came by her bed. And now when times are tough in her own life, she still calls out, Abba, Papa, I need you to hold my hand. Today, brothers and sisters, there are many today who are calling on the Father, saying, Father, I need you to hold my hand. Lord, hold my hand while I run this race. I don't want to run this race alone. Papa, tears are falling from my eyes. Please wipe them away. Daddy, please, Lord, I'm scared. Will you please comfort me? Be with me. I'm going through the shadow of death. Be with me, Papa, Abba, Father. Be with me. And I hear him say, I will be with you always, even until the end of the world. And I don't know about you, but I want to keep that fatherly relationship with my God. I want to keep it to the point that he knows my name. I want to keep it to the point that he'll answer when I call him in the middle of the night. This name, the name of this Father is Jesus. You know him. He came down here. He lived for 33 long years on this world. He died and was buried in a borrowed tomb. But early Sunday morning, he arose up from the grave with all power in his hand. Oh, brothers and sisters, call out to him. Lift up your hands to him and say, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit, my life, my soul. I give you everything I have. Father, I stretch my hands to thee. If thou withdraw thyself from me, whither shall I go? Father, Abba, Papa, Daddy, we love you for everything that you have done for us. Your Father loves you too, and God loves your family. Blessed be the tie that binds our heart in Christian love, the fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above. Now I need everybody to get together with somebody in your household. Give them a big hug and tell them you love them. You don't really know if this is going to be the last time. We want the tie that binds us together to hold us until we're able to get back together in fellowship. We're asking God just to bless that tie that keeps us connected until we can worship him all together at the same time. Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above. Amen. We love you and good day.